That's the sound of one of the most powerful waterfalls in the world, Murchison Falls waterfall. About 300 cubic meters of water explode through this waterfall every second, making this waterfall one of the most powerful waterfalls in the world. So, Murchison Falls is actually on the Victoria Nile, which is the section of the Nile that flows out of Lake Victoria through Uganda and then into Lake Albert. And from there, it continues north. So it continues north as Albert Nile, eventually becomes part of the White Nile that flows through South Sudan and Sudan. Originally, the Nile was forced almost entirely through this narrow 7-meter wide gorge. And over thousands of years of erosion, rock collapse, and other events, additional channels have been created. During periods of high water, some of this flow spills into the secondary channels. It slightly redistributes the force of the river. The falls are actually still shaped by erosion today, but any major visible changes happen very slowly and can really be noticed over a long geological timescale. My first impression when I saw this waterfall, I thought a disaster was about to happen. It's just so powerful, and you can actually feel and hear how powerful it is when you're near it. I've actually seen this waterfall in a few documentaries because I remember seeing one with a large herd of mammals like buffaloes, elephants, and those, what do you call them, antelopes? I don't exactly know the name. But the documentary focused more on the movement of the animals, so it didn't really get to say much about the waterfall. I've also noticed that there's a lot of media about Uganda. I've seen a few nature documentaries, and I've also heard certain films like the first Tarzan movie was actually filmed in Uganda. And I've also heard that the Black Panther movie also took inspiration from Lake Bunyonyi in the south. And I can definitely see the inspo there. Now, the activities you could do on this river are boat tours or river cruises, so you can either do it upstream or downstream. Basically, upstream, you get to cruise towards the base of the waterfall, and downstream, this is great for spotting wildlife. So you get to see hippos, crocodiles, elephants, and a lot more. To be fair though, before you even get to the waterfall, you will see a lot of animals on the way. I saw guinea fowls, several types of monkeys, baboons, and so many different types of birds. You can check out my Uganda road trip video to see some of the animals I saw on the way. Even the hotel we stayed in, there were some buffaloes outside. I stayed at Sambiya River Lodge. Very protected. My hotel room was a thatched cottage, and the interior was just so beautiful. It was very clean, comfortable, and it had pretty much everything I needed. The room had 2 showers, so it had one indoor and one was outside. And this one was the outdoor shower. And this is how it looked like outside. So the cottages look like this. They actually have bigger cottages as well. So if you have a family, you could book the bigger ones. I just loved hearing those birds sing in the morning. It was one of the most calming and beautiful sounds I could hear. Also, if you do stay in these cottages, you have to close your doors and windows every time you're out of it because there's a lot of wild animals around. So if you leave the door open or the window some of them could actually enter the room. So you saw like they had like buffaloes outside. So there's other insects, lizards, and a lot of other animals that could just enter. So you have to be aware of things like that. I know it sounds like heaven for people who actually love animals, but the idea is that the animals don't go inside the room. That way they don't destroy things in the room. They also have this football pitch or soccer field for Americans. That way you can still, play some sports. From this lodge, you can actually do a lot of activities like game drives, boat cruises, nature walks, zip lining, and you can actually do chimp trekking as well. Now, I'm actually scared of chimps. I know that sounds crazy considering I was just like gorilla trekking the other week. I'm okay with gorillas, I think. I just feel like chimps are crazier. I don't know, I feel like if one starts attacking you, the rest will just join in. This was actually when I was on my way to get some breakfast. The price was included in the hotel room price, which was $155 per night for two. I think this is like with lunch and dinner as well because it was a full board booking, but if you're interested, you can double check with the lodge. We did make all of our bookings with Dal Safaris and we just made one big payment for like most of the hotels we stayed in Uganda. And some of it was like for service charges and for transfers. Since this lodge is quite remote, you can't really go out for restaurants, so you have to rely on what the hotel can provide you. Otherwise, to get to like the closest restaurants, you'd have to travel long distances. So it makes sense just to like have a full board booking. The lodge seems empty, but there were actually quite a lot of people. I just had to wake up really early because I had a trip after. So after this hotel, I had to go to the south of the country. I had to go to Bwindi for the gorilla trekking. And from Murchison to Bwindi, that's like a whole day's journey. So I had to be really prepared. And we had to leave by like 7:30 a.m. Now, what is the best time to visit Murchison or this lodge? Well, that depends on exactly what you're looking for. So if your goal is to see the big mammals like elephants, hippos, antelopes, and more, then the dry season is the best time to visit. The dry season in Uganda is between June to October, but if you want to see the landscape look lush, then the wet season is the best. And the wet season in Uganda is between November and May. And during the wet season, you also get to see like bird migrations and local birds. I went in November, but I still saw those buffaloes. So maybe I just got lucky. Maybe if I went during the dry season, I could have seen even more animals. Who knows? And this lodge is perfect if you just want to get away from the city and want to connect with nature. You can really just hear the birds sing wherever you go in this place. I just loved it. The only problem is that, though, it takes ages to get here from Kampala. It actually took us about maybe 7 hours just to get from Kampala all the way to this lodge. If you do have money, you can get a charter flight. I think you can get a charter flight from Entebbe all the way to Murchison. It's quite pricey, so that's why I couldn't actually take the flight. They also have this fireplace. It's very beautiful when they do lit up the fire, but during the day, they usually just leave it like that. But when it was at night, they did lit up the fire and it was so beautiful. I'll show you later on in the video how it looks like when the fire is lit up. This canopy walkway, it actually lets you do the nature walk. Unfortunately, it was closed when I was there. I think it was under maintenance. As I said before, this is called Sambiya River Lodge. I didn't actually get to see the river from the hotel, but to be fair, I only stayed for a night, so I didn't really get to fully explore the area. Now, about the breakfast, it was quite good actually. They had both local food items and international food as well. And one thing I really appreciated about Uganda was that in every single restaurant or hotel restaurant I went to, they always had this freshly made pineapple and watermelon juice. I just want to point out as well that the customer service in this lodge was excellent. The staff was so nice. Once they noticed that I wasn't feeling well, they volunteered to actually make me some dawa tea. I did mention in my other videos that when I was in Uganda, I had this severe cough. And pretty much every hotel I went to, at least one of the staff members would actually ask to make me the tea. So I do really appreciate that. The night before, I also had dinner in this hotel restaurant. The selection was also very good. They had both local food as well as international food. When it comes to food, it's actually very difficult for me to do proper reviews because I'm a very picky eater. I only eat beef or chicken when it comes to meat. So if they had things like goat, pork, I can't really review things like that. The food I tried, some of it was decent, some was okay. But overall, it was good because there was a lot of variety which you could choose from. And one thing I really liked about Ugandan food actually is that there's no GMOs. So GMOs are banned in Uganda. So all of the food here is organic. This is the fireplace at night, the one I was talking about earlier on. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.